Jesus, who is called the Messiah. He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested